Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation of individual supports. My topic was on choice making. And before we get started, I just wanted to provide an overview of what we're going to be covering during this presentation. We are going to be looking at what is choice making, why is choice making effective, a description of the procedure in applying the strategy, implementation steps, examples of those steps, ways you can provide choices to students, and the strengths and limitations of implementing the choice-making strategy. So first and foremost, what is choice-making? It is an instructional strategy, a strategy where the teacher offers choices to a student before they begin an activity, where the student's challenging behavior typically occurs. So for example, if you know that your student does not like doing handwritten work, and you are wanting to do an activity in reading class where they're going to be providing a response to literature, providing them a choice with a variety of response options can help in preventing challenging behaviors from occurring. It also is an opportunity for the teacher to provide students choices in materials that they use when completing an activity or an assignment, providing them choices in different components of an activity, or just providing different activities altogether as an alternative choice to the initial one. So just to reiterate, it's when the student is offered a choice of materials that are needed to perform the task, a choice of components, or just a choice of different activities when directions to complete a task, just for further emphasis. All right, now why is it effective? Well, it's effective because behaviors are maintained by escape of task or demand. So choice making is most effective for when this happens. And that's per the College of Education at UW. It also increases active participation of individuals with special needs. So it helps to enrope them and engage them in participating within the lesson, in completing the assigned task, and then further being able to evaluate their performance and their understanding of the content that you're delivering. It also allows students to have opportunities in which they can creatively display their understanding. So it's not placing the student within a box and then limiting the way that they are responding, limiting the way that they are demonstrating their understanding, but rather you are offering them choices that will strengthen their ability to communicate exactly what they are thinking, how they are processing the concept, how they are understanding it, and how they can execute the principles of what you are teaching them. And this was one of my favorite quotes that I came across. It says, choice making should only be used with activities that offer flexibility. That's a key word, flexibility for the student to accomplish the learning goal while using different materials, completing only components of the task, or completing an alternative activity. So this particular strategy is all about flexibility, right? You want to be flexible because what is your objective? What is your end goal? You want to be able to see, does the student truly understand what I am teaching them? Are they grasping it? Are they getting it? How can I help them get to their aha moment that best complements their abilities, that best complements their talents, their giftings, that they can also just enjoy and have fun in engaging in the work. So this leads me now to the description of the procedures. So first, you want to assess the student's needs prior to providing choice making. You want to see what their needs are so that you can then be intentional about the planning and the choices that you are offering to your student. Additionally, you want to be able to identify their target behavior. So what is the behavior that you want to help them shape and mold, and then implement strategies to then teach them the replacement behavior. If they are getting triggered by a specific task or a specific direction, how can you implement strategies to complement the choice-making process in order to then complement teaching the replacement behavior? Then once you do that, you can provide them with the choices and then further evaluate the procedure and the student's progress. Being a teacher, we always want to maintain within ourselves a teachable spirit. What went wrong or what could have gone better, if that's better for a better choice of words, what could I have done better to then further pilot my student success? What can I tweak? What can I do next time? You want to evaluate your procedures, has to be flexible, and it can change. But again, it's not about us, it's about our student. It's changing and being flexible for our student, and to be able to help them towards success. All right, and then implementation steps. So this is a little chart adapted from the UW College of Education. So after you identify a task or activity that the student is trying to escape from, this is a task list for you to go through. One would be to select one of the activities or the tasks. Second, identify a variety of choices that would still allow the student to be able to complete the activity. Third, offer the choices when asking the student to engage in the desired task. Then when the student makes a choice, engage the student in the selected activity. Praise them. Be like, great, I see that this is the one that you're most interested in. Let's get to work. How can I help best support you? How can I further inspire? What can I help you for them to then take the reins and continue moving forward? Because we want to help build those independent skills, right? That's the beauty of choice making. You're presenting before them several options. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I'm going to touch a little bit about this, but it also helps them to take ownership skills of their learning. They're going to identify what they connect most with, and then just, give a little like educational support push and let them roll with it. And then lastly, additional choices may be offered during the activity to support the students' continued engagement in the task. Remember that key word of flexibility, and you want them to continue remaining engaged in their work. So that is really, 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 really important. So what are different ways that we can provide choices for our students? First, we can present them with a variety of choices on how to demonstrate their understanding of a concept or a principle that is taught in class. Second, offering them with a variety of choices in choosing tools to use, whether that be digital devices or handwritten format. And this is kind of coming from personal experience that I have had for myself. One in particular, a student in my math class, I never really knew which way he would end up going, because one day he would love to respond using a digital device such as an iPad and demonstrating his work on Class Kick. And then the next he would say, oh, I hate using the iPad. I want pencil and paper. So being able to provide your students with a variety of choices on the tools that they use, you want to make sure that you're well prepared in that. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on, as well as providing choices on how students can respond. So again, if it's going to be like a response to literature prompt that you want them to engage in, offer them the choice of written work, an audio recording where they can just use a microphone or a device that will provide them an opportunity to record their voice for them to then play back, see what they like, what they want to keep, maybe what they want to redo, and then continue moving forward in that. Or also doing a video recording. And one that's not often thought of enough is also scribing. That, of course, depending on your students' needs, could be beneficial for them. Because remember, your objective and your goal is, how can I best assess and evaluate my students' understanding of the concept, principle, or topic? So sometimes scribing will be necessary. Let them explain to you, oh, this is how I multiply 4 and 6. What is their thought process? And if they're able to effectively communicate that, then okay, great, write down the answer for them. But again, this is all about helping them to manage challenging behaviors, helping them to most effectively demonstrate their work and understanding, and also for them to just keep them engaged, right? So with that being said, I have a video here to demonstrate to you from the Iris Center video collection about choice making. It's giving an elementary school example and then also a non-example. So hang tight for just 1 second.
Choice making, elementary school, example and non-example. Nevaeh often doodles during independent assignments in language arts, a subject she doesn't enjoy. In response, Mrs. D decides to use choice making with her. Note how Mrs. D offers Nevaeh 2 within-activity choices to complete the alliteration assignment. Write a sentence or draw a picture.
Today we are going to talk about a type of language called alliteration. Raise your hand if you think you know what alliteration is. Alliteration. I would love for you all to give an example on your papers. And so if you would please write down your own examples. I saw all of you all some hands. Please write down your own example of an alliteration. Nevaeh, if you would like, you can either write it out or you can draw it out. Which one would you like to do? Write it out. That is an awesome idea. Thank you so much.
To review, Mrs. D correctly implemented choice making. She offered 2 choices and praised the student immediately after she made a choice. Although Nevaeh initially did not comply with the writing request, when offered the opportunity to control her own learning, she actually chose the same assignment as the rest of the students. In this non-example, Mrs. D does not implement choice making correctly. Pay close attention to how she offers more options than is recommended and then discourages the student's choice.
Today we are going to talk about a type of language called alliteration. Raise your hand if you think you know what alliteration is. Alliteration. I would love for you all to give an example on your papers. And so if you would please write down your own examples. I saw all of you all some hands. Please write down your own example of an alliteration. Miss Nevaeh, you can either write it out, you can draw it out, you can use a computer, or you can talk it out. Which one would you like to do? Computer. But you're such a great drawer. How about you draw it out? All right? All right, thank you.
To review, Mrs. D incorrectly implemented choice making because she offered too many choices, questioned the student's choice rather than praising the student after making her choice, and basically chose the student's option for her.
All right, so we saw 2 awesome examples, one that was a supportive example of implementing choice making and one that was not properly executed. So as we saw in the first one, she limited the offer of choices that she provided for the student. And why is that important? Because one, students will often become overwhelmed. So you really have to know your population, the students in your classroom. Will they be able to handle more than 2 choices or will they not? And then praise, right? That's something that I had mentioned earlier. Offer praise for your student in taking ownership of their learning and making that choice and making that selection, and then support them and then let them run with it. So that was an example that I wanted to demonstrate for you. Now, this is an example that I came up with myself.
Choice making.
Just one second. All right, here we go. So a response to literature example. So now this goes hand in hand, again, with what I said earlier. You need to know your student population. Are you in a general education classroom? Are you in a special education classroom? So these are just examples of what you can implement with a response to literature activity or lesson. Of course, you don't have to include all of these options, but these are just several options that I identified that would help a variety of students make a connection. One that has to do with images and visuals. Another one that maybe some students like social media and they would like to create a social media profile. Ones that are musically inclined, hence the playlist option, or who like video recordings and audio recordings and being creative. So just again, a quick overview of these 4 options. This is going to be in an English and language arts classroom, probably high school. focused on Greeks and Greek mythology, so gods, goddesses, demigods, and of that sort. So the 4 options that I had written here, one is a scrapbook or yearbook, where the students can create a scrapbook or yearbook containing photos and captions of Greek gods and goddesses. In this response, they can include information about their personality, character traits, interests, and relations with other gods, demigods, or humans. The social media profile, they'll create a profile for their selected character and include at least 3 personal postings that would demonstrate their personality, traits, interests, and other relations with gods or goddesses. The playlist, they'll create a playlist of a compilation of songs that relate to the personality of their chosen character. And not only just selecting 5 to 7 songs, but then also writing a short description as to why they chose that song to represent the character. And lastly, writing a short scene containing their chosen Greek character and at least 2 other supporting characters. And if they'd like to even take it a step further, hey, let them record a 2-minute trailer. Let them reenact it. And even more so, provide them the choice of collaborating with other classmates. So this could definitely be like a small group collaboration of putting together a trailer, right? So when you're providing choices for your students, you want to make it fun and engaging for them that will appeal to their personal interests. But again, knowing your population, will they be able to handle all of these 4 choices, or would you want to offer just the 2? I think age also plays into that factor as well. So it really just comes down to knowing your students. But this is an example of how to be creative and intentional about planning choice making and implementing it within your lessons. So when I'm thinking about choice making, I thought of this statement. It's providing students with choices that allows them the opportunity to display their creativity and understanding in ways that are most effective for them, and that will also complement their strengths and giftings. So again, incorporating their interests in choice making enough to make them be engaged, right? To be active participants in their learning, to want them to dive into learning and to just have fun with it. So now we've arrived to the strengths and limitations. I am so pro choice making when done correctly. So just a few of the strengths that we've identified. It encourages independence, right? We want to be able to build those independent skills within our students so that they can take it and run with it. It also helps the student develop skills in advocacy and self-awareness, right? So they'll identify, what do I struggle with? And then what can I strive in doing? And then to advocate for that. Hey, Miss Mendoza, I feel like I'm going to have a hard time writing a paragraph. Can I instead act it out? Can I instead record myself saying it? And they can advocate for that. And then us in being flexible, a key word, will help them in making that choice for them to benefit their learning. It also promotes motivation and active engagement. And then it just strengthens your students' overall development in the classroom. Some limitations, I think this is more so reflective on the teacher itself. Predetermination in the aspect of teachers predetermining what the students are going to want to choose without giving them the opportunity of actually choosing for themselves. So like we saw in that video, the non-example, the teacher provided the student with choices, but when the student actually made the selection, it's like she discouraged her. She shot her down from actually making that choice and persuade her in a different direction. And in that aspect, the teacher may never know how well that student would have strived had they would have engaged in their initial choice. Also, predetermination of this student selection of choice could also be in result of poor planning, right? If you're not intentional about specifically setting options in place for your choice making strategy to be implemented in your lesson, then you won't know entirely how your student can strive and succeed with that concept. And then also repetition or lack of rotation. So if you're constantly repeating the same options over and over and over again, your student might get tired of it. It will become too routine for them that they're just going to get bored of the options, bored of the same thing. So you want to be able to, again, be intentional about the planning, include their interests, and rotate them a little bit. Doesn't mean that you can't use a similar option in a, pardon me, different class or context setting. It just means rotate them. Keep things interesting for your students. So that is my presentation. Here are my list of references, and congratulations, you all have gone through the presentation. Here is your certificate of completion in choice making presentation training. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or hit me up on my teacher socials. Send me a message if you want to continue talking about choice making. I love this topic. Let's engage in some dialogue. Thanks for tuning in, guys.